Human life passes as quickly as an evening cloud. Some are born into wealth, while others stumble through poverty. Some spend their entire lives chasing fame and fortune, while others only hope to find peaceful blessings within their souls. But no matter the circumstances, there comes a time when we sit back, look deep into our hearts, and ask ourselves, what am I living for? Where am I going? For life is inherently impermanent. Everything we cling to today may turn into dust tomorrow. Things we imagine to be important are sometimes just fleeting illusions in the swirling flow of life. Some say, this life is so exhausting, why do people suffer so much together? People are misunderstood, people are betrayed, and those who do good are not recognized. Sometimes we perform acts of kindness, but others claim we are being fake. We help people, and they say we have hidden motives. These things cause us pain and harden our hearts. Then we begin to doubt even our own kindness. However, the Buddha taught that whatever others do is their business. The important thing is to keep your own heart pure and your soul serene. This life is not a place for us to compete for superiority with anyone. Everyone has their own karma, their own path, and their own lessons to learn. Those who do evil will eventually pay the price. For those who do good, blessings will arrive sooner or later, just like planting a seed in the ground. It is not sown today and sprouted tomorrow. Every seed of kindness, if nourished by a virtuous heart, will bloom on a beautiful day. The Buddha once taught, do good, avoid evil, and keep the mind pure. Those are the teachings of all Buddhas, just that much. But if we truly understand and practice them, life will change. Because the root of all suffering lies in the mind. When our mind is tainted by affliction, anger, ignorance, and jealousy, then, even if we live in a high house with wide doors, the heart remains restless and insecure. But when our mind is gentle and calm, then even with just a bowl of rice and simple vegetables, the heart feels warm and fulfilled. There is an ancient story about a monk passing through a small village who saw a farmer complaining, "I work hard, but remain poor, while that greedy man is rich and comfortable." The monk smiled kindly and replied, "You only see today's fruit, but you do not see the seeds of many lifetimes. That person enjoys blessings today, but if they do not do good, those blessings will run dry. As for you, if you keep a virtuous heart and sow seeds of kindness, tomorrow the blessings will sprout within you." After hearing this, the farmer remained silent for a while and bowed in gratitude. From then on, he no longer compared himself to anyone. He just quietly worked, lived virtuously, and helped others. Many years later, his life became full and peaceful, and everyone in the village loved and respected him. The Buddha taught that happiness does not come from being better than others, but from living according to the path of goodness, abandoning evil, and doing good. That is the only path that leads us to peace and liberation. In every moment, if we know how to stop, breathe deeply, feel our breath, and listen to the echoing temple bell or the sound of a trickling stream, we will feel our hearts gradually settle down. All worries, jealousies, and comparisons suddenly seem to vanish. So, amidst the volatile flow of life, remember that there is no need to argue with anyone, no need to try to prove anything. Whatever they do is their business. Everyone has their own karmic path. As long as we maintain a kind heart, live sincerely, and do good deeds without expecting anything in return, happiness is already present in every breath. When night falls, before closing our eyes to sleep, we only need to sit quietly for a few minutes, breathe gently, reflect on the past day, think of the good things we have done, forgive the mistakes of others, and smile with gratitude because we are still alive and able to improve ourselves every day. That is the simple practice to keep the mind pure and sow blessings for ourselves and our loved ones. In the hustle and bustle of life, people easily forget that every breath in and out carries within it cause and effect. If we breathe in with anger, the heart will burn like a fire. If we breathe out with gratitude, a cool breeze will spread throughout the body and mind. A person who lives with good intentions will naturally be surrounded by good things. But anyone who lets their mind sink into greed, anger, and ignorance will sooner or later taste the fruit of suffering. Someone once asked, "Why do I live virtuously but still encounter suffering?" The Buddha taught that no one can save us but ourselves. Each person is the master of their own karma. Sowing good seeds reaps good fruits. Sowing hatred meets with suffering. That teaching seems simple, but if understood deeply, it is the key that unlocks all suffering in life. In life, who hasn't felt injustice? There are diligent and honest people who remain poor forever. There are cunning and deceitful people who live in luxury and abundance. These paradoxes make people confused and shake their faith in the law of cause and effect. But cause and effect is not something that happens right before our eyes. It is a long circle that can connect from one life to another. Today we see an evil person living comfortably because they are enjoying the blessings accumulated from before. But the retribution for evil karma, when the conditions are sufficient, will arrive without missing by even a hair's breadth. Like a seed falling to the ground, some sprout early, some take a long time to grow into a tree, but no seed is ever lost. The Buddha taught that every action, word, and thought of ours sows a seed. Those seeds are not lost. They wait for the day when conditions are met to bear fruit. When we give rise to a heart that loves and helps people without expecting repayment, we are sowing seeds of blessing. When we get angry and harm others, even with just a harsh word, we are sowing seeds of suffering. Every day, every moment, we are creating karma. Good karma or evil karma all come from this mind. Therefore, a practitioner is not someone who just goes to the temple to bow to the Buddha or chants many sutras, but someone who knows how to reflect on every thought arising in their own heart, knowing how to stop when an unwholesome thought arises. There is a simple yet profound story about Mrs. Tu, who sold vegetables in a rural market. Mrs. Tu lived in a small house with earthen walls and a thatched roof, toiling year-round with her baskets of green vegetables. Every morning she woke up while it was still dark to pick vegetables from the garden, arranged them neatly in bamboo baskets, and carried them to the market. People loved her not only because her vegetables were fresh, but because her heart was as fragrant as the newly picked greens. When poor customers came to buy, she always lowered the price or gave extra. Sometimes, seeing a young mother holding a small child, she would wrap the vegetables and say, "Please, take a bit more for the little one to have enough to eat. It would be a pity otherwise." Everyone in the market knew her character. People often said Mrs. Tu earned little profit, but many blessings. Right next to her stall was Mr. Bay, a fish seller. Mr. Bay was stingy, often grumbled, and calculated every penny. If someone haggled even a little, he would immediately scowl. Sometimes when weighing fish, he would intentionally press down his hand to give less. People knew but were afraid to speak. They just avoided buying from him. Seeing Mrs. Tu selling well, he became even more annoyed and grew jealous. He often said, "Giving extra only leads to loss. Doing business like that is just being stupid." But Mrs. Tu only smiled kindly. "As long as my heart is happy, a little profit is enough." Mr. Bay heard this and shook his head, thinking she was foolish. Years passed, and a rainy season came. Mrs. Tu fell seriously ill. The vegetable baskets were no longer carried to the market every morning. When news of her illness spread, people from the neighborhood and the market all came to find her. Some contributed a little rice, some brought fruit, some helped with cooking, and some looked after her medicine. The whole rural market suddenly bustled with a common heart, wanting to share with the person who had once given them love. In the small house, Mrs. Tu lay in bed, her eyes tearing up as she saw everyone coming to visit. She said softly, "I didn't do much. I just felt compassion for those who suffered." A few years later, Mr. Bay also fell ill. This time he lay alone, and the house was cold and empty. Neighbors heard the news, but no one asked about him. People said he never loved anyone in his whole life, so who would know to come? He lay there remembering old days, feeling regretful. Only then did he understand what Mrs. Tu once said, "As long as my heart is happy, a little profit is enough." But it was too late. The seeds he had sown for many years now bore the fruit of bitter loneliness. The story of Mrs. Tu and Mr. Bay seems small, but it is clear evidence of the law of cause and effect that the Buddha taught. A person who lives virtuously, even without seeking blessings, will still receive them. A person who lives evilly, even if they try to avoid retribution, will not be spared. For cause and effect shows no favoritism to anyone. It does not come because we pray for it, but because we have sown it. Just like sowing an orange seed will produce an orange flower. One cannot expect an apple. The Buddha taught that those who sow good seeds will receive good fruits, and those who sow evil seeds will encounter suffering. If we understand this deeply in our hearts, we will no longer resent anyone, nor blame heaven or other people. Because we know that everything coming to us today is due to what we once created. When we look at everything through the eyes of cause and effect, the mind will settle down, no longer boiling over because of things that do not go our way. We no longer worry when we see others doing better than us, nor do we feel sad when others do bad things. We just tell ourselves, whatever they do is their business. I only need to keep a kind heart and a bright mind. Cause and effect is a living lesson about the fairness of the universe. No one can escape. There is no deity who rewards or punishes on a whim. Instead, we are the ones who write our own destiny through every thought and action. When we know that, the heart will lighten, no longer blaming, no longer comparing, because every time we give rise to a wholesome thought, we have saved ourselves. Every time we give rise to an unwholesome thought, we have burned ourselves with the fire in our hearts. Therefore, to have a peaceful life, one must first know how to regulate the mind. To have good blessings, one must first know how to do good deeds, speak kind words, and think good thoughts. In a life full of temptation, it is not easy to maintain a virtuous heart. Those who do good are sometimes mocked or exploited. Those who live sincerely are sometimes hurt. But the Buddha taught that even if a person who sows good seeds is misunderstood by the world, they should still continue to do good deeds, because that is their own blessing. When we do good, that blessing is not lost. It is like a seed sown in the ground. Even if we don't see it sprouting yet, it is quietly taking root in the earth. One day, when conditions are sufficient, the blessing will bloom. If one day you feel discouraged because you do good but are not recognized, remember Mrs. Tu, the vegetable seller. She was not rich in money, but rich in human love. When she was sick, the whole village cared for her. As for Mr. Bay, even if he had wealth, in the end, he was lonely. Cause and effect never errs. We only need to keep the heart pure, not harm anyone, not speak cruel words, and not think bad thoughts. Then no matter how many storms life has, the heart remains still. In life, the most precious thing is not how much money or wealth one has, but a joyful heart. When the mind is at peace, even in poverty, one is happy. When the mind is disturbed, even in wealth, one suffers. To have a peaceful mind, one must live according to the Buddha's teachings. Abandon evil, do good, and keep the mind pure. Those are the three fundamental things that the Buddha reminded us of repeatedly throughout his life. At this point, Let us sit together quietly for a moment, close our eyes, take a very deep breath, and then exhale very slowly. Feel the breath going in and out at the tip of the nose. Listen to the heartbeat within yourself. Let all sadness, anger, and jealousy dissolve in the breath. Think of the people you once hurt and send them an apology. Think of those who caused you suffering and send them forgiveness. When our hearts know how to be thankful and how to forgive, blessings will naturally arise. The Buddha taught that one wholesome thought can transform 1,000 evil things. When we maintain a single wholesome thought in our heart, the light of compassion will spread like a lamp, lighting up the dark night. If each of us maintains that lamp, this world will have much less suffering. Therefore, in every breath, in every small task, remember the Buddha's words. Sowing good seeds reaps good fruits. Sowing hatred meets with suffering. Every morning when waking up, tell yourself, today I will speak pleasant words, do good deeds, help people within my ability, and not complain about life. That is how we create blessings, nourish a peaceful mind, and sow good seeds for the present and the future. Live like Mrs. Two, selling vegetables quietly but virtuously. Do not be like Mr. Bay, calculating and lonely. Live simply, honestly, loving others, and letting go of jealousy. When we know that cause and effect operates in every breath, we will live more mindfully, more gently, and the heart will naturally feel lighter. Remember that whatever others do is their business. Everyone has their own karmic journey. We do not need to fix others, we only need to fix ourselves. We do not need to look at the faults of others, we only need to illuminate our own minds. When the mind is bright, life will be bright. When the mind is good, life will be good. And when we live in goodness and joy, liberation will naturally come, because, as the Buddha taught, no one can save us but ourselves. Amidst this bustling and noisy life, people are easily swept away by the whirlwind of endless desires. Everyone seeks happiness, but looks for it outside. The poor hope for money, the rich want power, those with power crave respect, and those who are respected fear losing what they have. Thus, human hearts are caught in the circular trap of wanting and fearing. When we have little, we worry it is not enough. When we have enough, we worry about losing it. Spending a whole life chasing things we don't truly need, we eventually lose the most precious thing, peace of mind. The Buddha taught that a person who has little but feels content is a happy person. That saying is like a gentle bell ringing amidst the wind of life. Contentment is not about giving up effort, but about knowing when to stop. Contentment is the greatest wealth, because when the mind feels content, it lacks nothing. People think happiness is having a lot, but in reality, happiness comes when we are no longer dominated by cravings. A content mind makes a sufficient life. A greedy mind makes life forever lacking. In today's world, when material things are prioritized, everyone wants to be a bit better than others. Better in money, better in houses, better in cars, even better in reputation. But the more one tries to be better, the more exhausted one becomes. The more one has, the more one fears losing. Many people work without rest, accumulating bit by bit, only to discover one day that they have traded their health, youth, and relationships just to hold on to things they cannot take with them when they close their eyes. There are wealthy people who suffer from chronic insomnia. There are people with brilliant fame whose hearts are empty. There are people who own everything but no longer know what joy is, because their minds do not know contentment. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is greed. Greed is not just for money, but also for fame, power, love, beauty, and even the praise of others. When greed arises, we lose our freedom. We are controlled by our own desires. A person with much greed fears much, worries much, and suffers much. A content person is peaceful at ease, and light-hearted. It is not that a person with many possessions knows contentment, but a person with wisdom knows contentment. Contentment is a type of wisdom, the result of mindfulness. The story of Tam, a bricklayer in the countryside, is a simple but profound example of that. Tam was not wealthy and had nothing remarkable. Every day he still woke up early, took his old motorcycle, and rode to the construction site to work. That motorcycle had been with him for many years, with peeling paint, a torn seat, and a raspy engine sound. Many people who met him often teased him. Tam changed to a new bike to look more respectable. "This bike looks so old." He just smiled kindly. "This bike still runs. I work and have enough to eat, enough clothes, and enough joy. Why change it when it isn't broken?" His answer made many people laugh, but gradually they realized there was a peace in him that few others had. His friends raced each other to borrow money to buy new bikes, got high-end phones, and built larger houses to be respected. Everyone wanted to show that they were successful. But Tam remained relaxed, still riding the old bike, eating simple meals, and still cheerfully greeting everyone every morning. He did not compete, was not jealous, and did not compare. Then, a few years later, many of those friends fell into debt. The new bikes weren't paid off, work slowed down, income decreased, and some had to sell their bikes or their houses. But Tam remained the same. The old bike still ran, and he still went to work and had enough to live on. People asked him, "You're amazing. Why are you never short on money or suffering like us?" He just smiled. "I'm not rich. It's just that I don't buy what I don't need. I don't dream of things I don't have the affinity for, and I don't worry about what hasn't come. I see it is enough, so I lack nothing." That saying is simple but contains the entire philosophy of life that the Buddha taught. The Buddha said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth. A content person, even lying on the ground, still feels peaceful and happy. A person who is not content, even living in a jade palace, still suffers. When we know contentment, greed vanishes. When greed vanishes, natural peace manifests. Real wealth does not lie in how much we have, but in how much we need to feel joy." Some say that if everyone knew contentment, the world would not develop. But actually, contentment is not about stopping effort. It is about doing one's best in mindfulness without being attached to the results. A content person still works, still tries, but they work for joy, not for ambition. They use material things, but do not let material things control them. They enjoy life, but are not slaves to desire. That is true freedom. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest treasure, because when content, we are no longer dominated by wanting and can live in freedom without being bound. A person with contentment is like a person who knows their boat is small, so they do not sail into the vast ocean. They choose to stay near the shore, peacefully watching the waves, while the person who is not content, even with a large boat, sails further and further away, eventually getting lost in the storm without knowing the way back. Happiness is actually very simple. It lies in a meal with laughter, in a morning cup of tea, in the eyes of a loved one, in a cool breeze blowing after a long, tiring day. But when greed arises, we no longer see those things as precious. We want more, want better, and thus we lose the joy of the present. The Buddha taught that the mind of greed is the root of suffering. When the mind knows contentment, suffering dissolves. Look back at yourself. Haven't we had all the things we once desired, yet still felt something was missing? Haven't we once wished for a house, a car, a job, a loved one, but after achieving them, still felt it wasn't enough? Because of the bottomless pit of greed, humans suffer constantly. To end suffering, one must learn how to stop. Knowing when to stop is contentment. Tam in that story was not a practitioner, but his mind was already practiced. He understood the truth that many wealthy people have not yet understood. He knew how to treasure the present, how to be happy with what he had, and how to stop when it was enough. That is living in the Dhamma. Living with a mind that is no longer pulled by desire is peace. Living with a heart that is not shaken by material things is freedom. In modern life, learning contentment is learning how to live more slowly and look deeper into oneself. Try asking yourself, what do I really need to be happy? Sometimes it is just a quiet morning, a cup of hot tea, a smile from a loved one, a good night's sleep. Happiness is inherently very close. It's just that we run to find it far away. When we stop, we see that we already have enough. If every day we spend a little time reflecting on contentment, life will become much lighter. Sit still, breathe slowly, place your hand on your chest, and feel your heartbeat. Tell yourself, I am grateful to still be able to breathe, to live, to see the sky today. I am grateful to have rice to eat, clothes to wear, and someone to love. When the heart is filled with gratitude, greedy thoughts vanish. When grateful, naturally we see it is enough. The Buddha taught that no happiness equals the joy of one who knows contentment. Contentment is the foundation of happiness, the root of peace. A content person is not moved by gain and loss. They live simply, sincerely, without comparing or being jealous. They do not need to show off because their mind is already bright. They do not need to compete because their heart is already at peace. They do not need to prove anything because they understand that a person's true value does not lie in what they have, but in how they live. When we learn the lesson of contentment, we are learning how to love ourselves and love life. We no longer blame anyone, no longer resent anything, no longer demand. We just smile at everything that comes and goes. Like a passing breeze, like clouds in the sky, everything is impermanent. Only peace of mind remains. So, try to live like Tam, simple yet free. Even with only an old motorcycle, the heart is still joyful. Even eating rice with salt, it still tastes good. Even if clothes are patched here and there, the heart is still warm. Contentment is the source of blessings. Contentment is the key that opens the door to liberation. From today, every time you feel desire arising in your heart, stop and breathe very deeply. Ask, do I really need this, or is greed just controlling me? Just by stopping, you will see clearly. When the light of mindfulness shines, the darkness of greedy thoughts fades away. There is a teaching of the Buddha like this: a content person, even lying on the ground, is peaceful and happy. A person who is not content, even in heaven, does not find happiness. Contentment is virtue, it is wisdom, it is the path leading to peace and liberation. Live simply, be content, and let go of unnecessary things. Then, every breath will be peace, every day will be happiness, and our mind will be like a calm lake reflecting the clouds in the sky. Amidst the chaos of today's life, people easily get tired and forget what the root of peace is. Some people spend their whole lives trying to have a lot of wealth, fame, and status, but at some point realize they are still lonely and their hearts feel empty. Some, for a small profit, calculate and compete over every word and every gain, then live in insecurity, fear, and lingering regret. Some, though wealthy on the outside, never feel at peace inside because their minds are no longer pure and their hearts are no longer virtuous. In the middle of that competitive life, sometimes just a smile of wholesome thought, a simple act of helping someone, is enough to soften the heart. The soul feels as if it has been washed. The Buddha taught that wholesome thoughts are like seeds. When sown in the soil of the mind, they will eventually sprout. That is a simple but deep truth. Because every good deed, no matter how small, has an immense power of dedication. A person with a virtuous heart does not need to do grandiose things. They just need to live sincerely every day, knowing how to love and share. The Buddha taught that a compassionate smile can also save a suffering soul. A gentle word can also resolve a conflict. A person who lives virtuously does so not out of fear of sin or hope for blessings, but because they understand that doing good is nourishing the light in their mind, sowing seeds of blessings for themselves and for all people. Because in this world, nothing is lost, only cause and effect are silently continuing. There is an old story about an elderly woman living on the outskirts of a village. Every day, she only had a meal of rice mixed with sweet potatoes. Her clothes were patched over and over, but her face was always gentle and her eyes were always warm. People in the village often saw her sitting under a mango tree, eating her simple meal and chanting the Buddha's name softly. One day, while eating her modest lunch, she saw a stray dog, skin and bones, with sad eyes looking at her bowl of rice. She smiled slightly, divided her remaining portion of rice in half, poured it in front of the dog, and said softly, as if to herself, "Go ahead and eat. Half a bowl is enough for me." The dog looked at her, its tail wagging slightly, and ate every grain of rice gratefully. The old woman still sat there chanting the Buddha's name and smiling. Time passed, and no one remembered that small story. Many years later, when she was frail and living alone in an old thatched house, one winter night, the oil lamp was blown out by the wind and caught fire on a curtain. The house burned fiercely. She was sleeping soundly and didn't know. The very dog from years ago, now a large dog still wandering in the village, smelled the smoke, barked loudly and incessantly, rushed in, bit and pulled her clothes, dragging her out of the house. Thanks to that, she escaped death by a hair's breadth. People heard the dog barking and ran to put out the fire, but the house was completely burned down. She only had the clothes on her back, but she wore a gentle smile, stroked the dog's head and said, "Thank you. Perhaps that was the good fruit of half a bowl of rice from years ago." The story is simple, but contains a profound truth. The Buddha taught that sowing good seeds reaps good fruits, sowing hatred meets with suffering. That poor old woman didn't hope for rewards, didn't calculate for herself, but shared her meager portion of rice out of compassion. Yet that very kindness became a shield protecting her in a moment of extreme danger. To do good, one does not need to be rich or powerful, only to have a heart. Half a bowl of rice, a cup of water, a smile are all seeds of blessing. When those seeds fall into the clear soil of the mind, they will sprout into trees of happiness, bearing virtuous fruits. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught, even if a person gives little, if they give with a pure mind, the reward is still great. This means that the value of a good action does not lie in more or less material things, but in the intention when we do it. If we help people just to be praised, the blessing will be thin. If we help people with true compassion, that blessing will be as deep as the sea. Like a person planting a tree, if the seed is sown in dry, barren land, it is hard for the tree to live. But if the seed is sown with the water of compassion and the sun of wisdom, that tree will grow strong, providing shade for life. In modern life, many people mistakenly think that doing good must be something grand. They forget that kindness starts from the smallest things. Not saying cruel words, not hurting others, not giving rise to jealousy, knowing how to share joy with those who suffer. A gentle smile for a tired person, a sincere apology, a meal sent to a homeless person. Those are all seeds of blessing. And if every day we are willing to sow one such seed, our lives will be filled with fragrant scents, and joy will naturally come without needing to be prayed for. The Buddha taught that when our mind is good, everything is good. When our mind is evil, everything becomes thorny. Therefore, a practitioner does not only practice with the mouth or the body, but must also practice with the mind. Every morning upon waking, ask yourself, what good have I done today? Is there anyone I have made happier? Is there anyone I have made sad because of the words I said? That reflection is the seed of enlightenment. When we recognize our mistakes and correct them, when we choose compassion instead of anger, at that moment we are creating invisible blessings, a type of blessing no one can measure, but which has the power to change an entire human life. There are people who once sowed bad seeds, once did evil things, and then thought they could never turn back. But the Buddha taught that no one is so sinful that they cannot change, just as lotus flowers can still bloom from mud. Humans can also rise from their mistakes to become virtuous. As long as one wholesome thought arises, light immediately shines. Everyone can start from today, from the smallest things like a word of thanks, an act of forgiveness, or a session of sitting quietly and breathing lightly to let go of anger in the heart. If someone once hurt you, try looking at them with sympathetic eyes, because perhaps in their suffering they don't know how to love, which is why they caused you suffering. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, but not letting resentment continue to bind you. When you forgive, you are setting yourself free. And that is also a good action, a great seed of blessing amidst the chaos of life. Spend a quiet morning, sit in light breaths, close your eyes, feel each heartbeat, each breeze touching your skin. Let your mind return to its inherent peace. In that stillness, think of 3 things you are grateful for: a roof over your head to shield from rain and sun, a loved one still by your side, and this very breath that is helping you live. When grateful, our hearts become soft, from which wholesome thoughts naturally arise. A person with gratitude cannot be angry. A person with compassion cannot do evil. The Buddha once taught, a person who lights a lamp for others also illuminates themselves. When we do good, not only do others receive it, but we ourselves are also illuminated and warmed. Form the habit of asking your heart every day, have I done a good deed today? Even if it's picking up a piece of trash on the street, smiling at a stranger, or just keeping the mind from anger during a disagreement, all are virtuous actions. Do not underestimate small things, because blessings do not come from grandiosity, but from a sincere heart. Then there will come a time when you realize that a person who lives virtuously is the happiest person, not because they get a lot, but because they lose little. Not because they are affluent, but because they know how to let go. When there is no more greed, no more hatred, no more anger, the heart is like still water. Even when the wind of life blows, there are no ripples. Such a person brings peace wherever they go. And when night falls, before sleeping, join your hands and chant the Buddha's name, dedicating the merits to all sentient beings. Quietly say, may everyone be peaceful and happy. May my mind always maintain kindness. At that moment, the breath will become lighter, sleep will be more peaceful, and your life will gradually become brighter and more beautiful. The Buddha taught that a person who sows seeds of goodness is like a person planting a tree in the sun. We sow today and might not see the fruit tomorrow, but when conditions are sufficient, the flowers of blessing will bloom and the shade will spread. Therefore, do not be discouraged, do not doubt. Just do good, whether anyone sees it or not, whether anyone understands or not, because seeds of goodness sown in the soil of the mind are witnessed by heaven and earth. One day, when looking back, we will see our life like a garden full of fragrance and sun, and the heart will be as light as a cloud. Living in the world, one only needs one thing: maintain a virtuous heart, do good deeds, and sow good seeds. No matter how much life changes, no matter what others do, we only need to keep the mind pure, as the Buddha taught. Whatever they do is their business. The important thing is whether our mind is good or not. Just sow good seeds today to be peaceful tomorrow, to be liberated in the next life, so that in the present, even in the midst of this world, we can smile and say, I am at peace. Amidst a life full of competition, where everyone wants to be recognized, praised, and respected by others, we often forget that the truth of life does not lie in who is better than whom, but in who knows how to bow at the right time and who knows how to live humbly amidst gossip and conflict. Sometimes people suffer not because they lack material things, but because in their minds they still cling to fame, to the ego, to a large self, always wanting to prove they are right, they are talented, they are better than others. The more one tries to prove, the more exhausted one becomes. The more one tries to rise up through pride, the further one moves away from peace. The Buddha taught that a person who knows how to humble themselves is actually raising their mind up. Humility is not weakness, but a manifestation of wisdom. People who truly understand life do not need to show off or compete because they know everything in the world is impermanent. Today we are better than others, tomorrow we may be inferior. Today we are honored, tomorrow we may be forgotten. What remains is only the attitude we have toward life, which is a mind that knows humility, knows how to listen, knows how to understand, and lets go of the ego. A humble person is like a low-lying field, always able to receive water from all directions. On the contrary, a proud person is like a high mountain peak, standing alone in solitude, with no one coming near and no one daring to listen. In Buddhism, pride is one of the 10 fetters that bind humans to the cycle of birth and death, because when we are proud, we cannot learn, cannot open our hearts, and cannot recognize the truth. Conversely, humility is the first step of enlightenment, for only when we recognize that we are not enough can the mind open to receive the light of wisdom. Someone asked, Master, why is it that the more I study the Dhamma, the smaller I feel? I smiled and said, it is precisely when you see yourself as small that you are truly great, because that vision comes from wisdom, not from low self-esteem. A foolish person often thinks they know everything, while a wise person always feels they are not enough. That is the difference. Humility is the peak of understanding, because only a person with deep understanding knows how to step back. Only a person with wisdom knows how to yield words, yield portions, and yield victories. The Buddha taught that learning to practice humility makes one shine, whether rich or poor. That saying seems simple, but contains an entire path of practice. A person who has wealth but knows how to be humble has infinite blessings. A person who has status but knows how to lower themselves, their blessings will last even longer. Because when we voluntarily lower the ego, we are sowing seeds of harmony, moving people's hearts, and liberating ourselves from the trap of pride. In the past, there was a man named Hoa, who was the best carpenter in the region. He was sought after by many in the village to repair houses, make tables, and build cabinets. Each of his works was sophisticated, solid, and had a soul. People said, wherever his hand touches, the wood comes to life. Everyone thought a talented man like him must be very proud. But surprisingly, Mr. Hoa always spoke gently and modestly, always calling everyone neighbors and brothers, never claiming to be better than anyone. He had many students. One day, a young student, new to the profession, while sawing wood, completely miscut a precious plank that Mr. Hoa had to buy from afar. Everyone witnessing thought he would be angry, but he just gently approached, placed his hand on the student's shoulder, and said with a smile, "I was once wrong like you." Then he picked up the saw and showed how to measure and how to align the ruler bit by bit. The student's eyes teared up with emotion. Mr. Hoa did not just teach a craft, but taught how to be a person. That saying, "I was once wrong like you," seems ordinary, but contains deep wisdom. It is the word of a person who has experienced enough ups and downs and enough mistakes to understand that no one in this world is perfect. Mr. Hua's humility did not diminish his prestige. On the contrary, it made the whole village respect him. People came to learn a craft, but learned the Dhamma, learned that being talented does not lie in doing well, but in knowing how to empathize with the mistakes of others. One day, a merchant from another province came, wanting to hire him to do the interior for a temple. Mr. Hoa was over 60 then, weak and with shaking hands. The merchant said, "You are old now, let me find someone younger." He just laughed. Old or young can both learn if they have a heart. Then he introduced his students, instructing every detail. When the temple was completed, the abbot was grateful and invited him to the inauguration ceremony. He sat quietly in a corner watching his students being praised, with only a gentle smile in his heart. He knew the greatest blessing of his life was having passed on the practice of humility to others. Later, when he passed away, the villagers turned out in large numbers to see him off. They said they had never seen anyone so kind and humble. He lived simply, leaving no great fortune, but left in everyone's heart a lesson more precious than gold or jade. The lesson that when we lower ourselves, we raise our minds. When we bow, we stand tall in the hearts of others. Think about it. So much affliction in life is born only because we refuse to yield, refuse to lose, refuse to listen. If we just reduce one argument, reduce one instance of wanting to be better, the mind already lightens so much. Many people, for a bit of fame, cause resentment. For a bit of profit, lose a friend. For a bit of ego, carry hatred for a whole lifetime. But who is better than whom? Because in the end, everyone returns to dust. People remember us not because we defeated someone, but because we lived kindly, with respect and humility. In Buddhism, humility is also a form of selflessness. When we no longer see the ego as too large, we will no longer be dominated by praise and blame. A practitioner, a student of the Dhamma, if they still care about the words of others, still hope to be praised, and still fear being criticized, then the path to liberation is still far away. The Buddha once taught that a person who knows humility will naturally progress on the path. A proud person, even if they study much, will only stand outside the door of the Dhamma. Therefore, to have a peaceful mind and a life with less suffering, one must first learn to bow, learn to listen, learn to endure, and learn to admit mistakes. Humility is also the root of compassion. A humble person will know how to put themselves in another's position and empathize with their suffering. A proud person only sees themselves, while a humble person sees all causes and conditions in every circumstance. They understand that everyone is in the process of learning, everyone has their own karma, and therefore they do not judge. When the mind does not judge, compassion naturally arises. Once, a Zen master asked a disciple, "If you see a person doing wrong, what will you do?" The disciple replied, "I will advise them to correct the wrong." The Zen master said, "What if they don't listen?" The disciple remained silent. The Zen master smiled. "Then you should learn to bow and listen to them first. When you are truly humble, your words can touch the hearts of others. That is the path. When we are humble, others are naturally convinced. When we know how to step back, others will step forward with trust. A wise person does not need to speak much, just live kindly and quietly, and the light will still spread naturally. You see, human life is like a stream. Water always flows to the low places, but it is water that makes rivers and seas. If water only wants to be in high places, it will dry up. Humans are the same. Whoever knows how to lower themselves can contain much love. Whoever knows humility lives amidst the world without storms in the heart. If today you feel disrespected or judged by someone, do not be quick to resent. Look back to see if your heart is proud or if you are hoping for too much recognition. Because sometimes our suffering does not come from others, but from our own ego. When we stop wanting to be better, we immediately feel light. When we know how to say thank you instead of why me, the mind immediately becomes cool. In life, a truly strong person is not the one who wins every argument, but the one who dares to step back to maintain peace, dares to remain silent to keep the mind pure, and dares to admit wrong to maintain morality. Humility is the most solid inner strength. It makes us calmly transcend praise and blame, not becoming arrogant when praised, and not becoming self-deprecating when criticized. Now, if you can, try to close your eyes, breathe in very deeply, breathe out very slowly, and feel the breath like a peaceful river flowing through your body. In every breath, tell yourself, I am grateful to life. I learn humility. Every time we breathe in with a grateful heart and breathe out with a humble heart, the body and mind will be as light as flying clouds. You can practice this every morning. Before speaking, stop for a second to listen. Before judging, think for a second to understand others. Before being proud of yourself, remember that all achievements are a convergence of conditions. No one succeeds alone. When we live with such a humble mind, we will see everyone around us becoming more lovable and everything in life becoming lighter. Finally, remember that the more understanding a person is, the more humble they are. The more humble a person is, the greater their blessings. Because as the Buddha once taught, wisdom is the lamp illuminating the path, while humility is the cup that helps us catch that light. If the cup is turned upside down because of pride, no matter how brilliant the light is, we will receive nothing. So learn to live like Mr. Hua, the kind carpenter. Know how to bow before life, but do not bow before evil. Know how to yield, but do not be submissive to wrongdoing. Be humble, but do not lose self-respect. When we maintain that heart, even if life changes, we still stand firm in peace. The Buddha taught that a person who knows humility has merits as immeasurable as the ocean. So, every day when we speak gentle words, when we know how to apologize, when we know how to listen, it is precisely then that we are creating blessings. Those blessings are not far away, but lie in every word, every action, and every thought that knows how to bow. In this life, whatever others do is their business. We only need to keep our own minds pure, live humbly, and do good deeds that is already practice. When we are humble, we don't need to prove we are right, because the truth shines by itself. We don't need to compete, because peace of mind is the greatest victory. When we learn that, we will see that joy is no longer far away, but right in this very breath, in this very smile, in every moment of knowing how to live kindly, humbly, and gratefully to life. Amidst the competitive and hurried flow of life, sometimes we keep chasing grand things and forget something very simple: gratitude. People today often live fast, speak fast, and do things fast. Even emotions are fast. They easily feel tired, sad, and disappointed, but rarely stop to see how many things in this life are worth being grateful for. Some live their whole lives only worrying about making money and fame, but when they sit back in the middle of the night, they realize their hearts are empty. Not because of lack, but because they have lost the root of blessings, which is gratitude. The Buddha taught that a person who is grateful is a person with wisdom, while an ungrateful person easily creates karma. That teaching is like a torch illuminating those who are lost in the maze of life. Because gratitude is not just a moral behavior, but also the path leading to blessings and peace. A person with a grateful heart, even when meeting hardship, is at peace because they understand that everything coming to them is due to causes and conditions. An ungrateful person, even with much wealth, still does not feel it is enough, because their mind is always turned outward, always seeing lack and dissatisfaction. The Buddha also once taught that being grateful to those from the past adds blessings to our hearts, while forgetting favors brings karma naturally. When we are grateful to those who help us, we are nourishing a wholesome energy. When we forget favors and deny the contributions of others, we sow seeds of ignorance in our hearts. Those seeds will sprout into karma, causing us to repeat lessons of suffering. Therefore, a student of the Dhamma, no matter the circumstances, should give rise to a heart of gratitude. Be grateful to parents for giving birth, grateful to teachers for instructing, grateful to friends, grateful to those who once helped us in times of difficulty, and even grateful to those who caused us suffering. Because thanks to them, we learned many lessons about endurance and letting go. There is a small story about a girl named Lan. Lan was born into a poor family in a rural area. Her father died early, and her mother had to work for hire to raise her child. Despite the difficult circumstances, Lan always tried to study. In those days, she often went to class with worn-out sandals, and her old notebooks were kept carefully, like treasures. Her homeroom teacher, Mr. Thang, seeing the hard-working girl, quietly helped her. He applied for a scholarship for Lan and even gave her his child's old books. Once Lan was ashamed because she had no money for tuition and intended to drop out. The teacher found out, came to her house, and left an envelope on the table, saying it was from the school's encouragement fund. Time passed. Lan passed the university entrance exam and went to work. Life opened up new opportunities, and she gradually succeeded. After many years of striving, Lan became the director of a large company. On the day of the company's inauguration, when everyone was happy, taking photos and celebrating, Lan suddenly stopped in the middle of the stage and said, "Before saying thanks to the partners and employees, I want to thank one person. If not for Mr. Thang, I wouldn't have today." The whole room went silent. Lan stepped down and led Mr. Thang, who was now old with white hair, onto the stage. She held the teacher's hand, tears falling. "You are the one who believed in me when no one believed. You are the one who sowed the seed of blessing in my heart from the time I didn't know what to sow." Mr. Thang only smiled kindly and said softly, "I didn't help you. You helped yourself. I only gave you the seed, and you watered it every day with gratitude." That story was widely spread, not because Lan was successful, but because she still maintained a heart of gratitude. In this world, people easily forget who helped them, but a truly blessed person is one who always remembers. Because when we remember favors, our hearts soften, our minds brighten, and blessings naturally arise. Gratitude is not just words, but actions. When we care for our parents with all our heart, that is gratitude. When we do not forget our teachers and are grateful to those who once guided us, that is gratitude. When we help others again with a good heart, not expecting repayment, that is also a way to repay life. Every act of gratitude is a seed of blessing. Someone asked, "Master, why do many people do good deeds but still encounter suffering?" I answered, "Because they do good without a heart of gratitude. Doing good to show off, to hope for praise, to exchange for blessings, those blessings are tiny. But doing good from a heart of gratitude to life, because one knows they are partially repaying what they have received, makes those blessings infinitely large. When we do good deeds with a heart of gratitude, our hearts are light, our minds are bright, and blessings naturally fill us." In Buddhism, gratitude is called recognizing favors and repaying favors. Recognizing favors is realizing the contributions of others. Repaying favors is using actions and a good heart to respond. A person who does not know how to recognize favors is like a tree with severed roots. Even if it is green for a time, it will wither. A person who knows how to recognize favors is like a river with a pure water source, flowing forever without drying up. One of the 4 great favors that the Buddha mentioned is the favor of parents. Parents are those who gave us this body, raised us from childhood, and endured much hardship without profit. There are people who, because they are engrossed in fame, forget their elderly parents who are waiting for news. There are people who become successful and then see their parents as a burden. They do not know that every breath of theirs today is thanks to their parents, having once sacrificed their entire youth. The Buddha taught that the favor of parents is as deep as the sea and as high as the sky. A whole life of repayment is not enough. Therefore, every time we bow before our parents, we are sowing the greatest blessing. The second favor is the favor of teachers. Teachers do not just teach letters, but also teach how to be a person. A teacher is the one who awakens wisdom within us and teaches us to distinguish right from wrong. A student of the Dhamma who forgets their teacher is like a person traveling far who forgets the way back. A teacher does not need disciples to bring offerings. A teacher only hopes students maintain a kind heart and live virtuously. Therefore, when we live well and live according to the teachings, it is the greatest way to repay the teacher. The third favor is the favor of society, the favor of those around us. The rice farmer, the water carrier, the trash collector, the baker, all contribute so that we have a full life. If we know how to be grateful to them, we will no longer look down on anyone. We will understand that all work, whether large or small, is worthy of respect. The last favor is the favor of the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Without the triple gem, we would have no path of practice and no light to guide us through the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, every time we hear the Dhamma or chant the Buddha's name, we should give rise to a heart of gratitude. Be grateful for the affinity to encounter the Dhamma. Be grateful that amidst countless cycles of reincarnation, we still have the opportunity to hear the Buddha's teachings. A person with a grateful heart will see this life as a miracle. They are grateful for the morning because they could wake up, grateful for the meal because someone cooked it, grateful for the rain because it waters the fields, grateful for challenges because they help them grow. When living like that, we will see everything around us as precious. On the other hand, a person who is not grateful sees affliction everywhere they look. Think about it. Every time we complain or grumble, we are creating negative energy. Every time we say thank you, we are creating wholesome energy. That energy spreads, making life lighter. A sincere word of gratitude can sometimes warm even a freezing heart. In the journey of practice, practicing gratitude is an important method. You can start with a breath. When breathing in, think, I am grateful because I am alive. When breathing out, think, I am grateful because I have the opportunity to love. Every day, spend a few minutes remembering 3 things you are grateful for today. It could be a greeting, a look, or just a cool breeze. When you write those things down, your mind will gradually be transformed. Another practice is recollection of favors. Before going to sleep, recite silently, I am grateful to parents, grateful to teachers, grateful to life. Each recitation is a lamp lighting up the mind. Gradually, you will find yourself with less greed, anger, and ignorance, less complaining, and less demanding. You will see that just by living with a heart of gratitude, naturally everything will be sufficient. There is something very miraculous in cause and effect. When you are grateful, you will receive more things to be grateful for. When you complain, life will bring more things to complain about. That is how the universe reflects our own minds. Therefore, a wise person always chooses gratitude over complaining. They know that even when encountering difficulties, it is a lesson that life sends to help them grow. One day when you feel tired, When you see everything is not as you wish, stop, close your eyes, breathe in, and ask your heart, am I still grateful? If the answer is yes, you will feel at peace immediately, because a grateful heart is the medicine that heals all suffering. It makes us return to the present, where we realize we still have many precious things. Finally, remember that blessings are not born naturally. Blessings originate from a virtuous mind, and a virtuous mind sprouts on the foundation of gratitude. When we know how to be grateful, we no longer compare. When grateful, we no longer demand. When grateful, we no longer fear loss. Because we understand that each thing coming to us is due to causes and conditions. Each person passing by is a favor. Life is short. Do not let a day pass without thanking someone or doing a good deed. Be grateful that parents are still alive, grateful for the friend by your side, grateful for those who once helped you, and grateful even to yourself for not giving up. When living like that, blessings will follow us, like a shadow follows a form. The grateful mind opens, old karma gradually lightens, and joy comes naturally. The Buddha taught that a person who knows gratitude will not fall into evil paths. An ungrateful person, even if they do good deeds, will not enjoy the blessings. Because blessings do not lie in wealth but in the mind. Therefore, a person with a grateful heart is creating blessings every day. So, whatever others do is their business. We only need to maintain gratitude, gratitude for life, gratitude for people, and gratitude for every second we are alive. That is the simplest path leading to liberation and joy. Because, when grateful, our hearts have no more resentment. When grateful, we no longer demand. When grateful, we are already living in the nirvana of the present. In this life, there are moments that take place only in an instant, but are enough to decide an entire affinity, a blessing, even a human lifetime. Many people live virtuously. Their hearts are not evil, but they often hesitate, feel shy, or think too much before doing a good deed. They fear others will misunderstand, fear being exploited, fear doing something without being repaid. Thus, the good deed is missed, kindness is held back, and the affinity of blessing vanishes in an instant. Then, looking back, we realize that if only we had been more decisive and dared to act for the sake of goodness, life might have been very different. The Buddha taught that one wholesome thought arising is like a lamp dispelling 1,000 years of darkness. In each of our thoughts, there are seeds of compassion, of love, and of empathy. But if we only let them sleep quietly in the mind, without nourishing them and without acting, then that light cannot shine for anyone. Doing good does not only lie in thoughts but in actions. A hand extended, a word of encouragement, a moment of stopping to help someone, that is when we sow a seed of blessing for ourselves. Someone asked, "Master, I want to do good things, but I'm afraid of being cheated, afraid that people will take advantage of my kindness." I just smiled and said, "Child, if you do a good deed with a clear mind, then even if the other person has other motives, the blessing still belongs to you. Because the cause sown by a virtuous mind will cause the fruit to bloom in the mind." The Buddha once taught that when doing good, don't wait for others to understand. When doing evil, don't think no one knows. Heaven and earth have eyes, and cause and effect is fair. A good deed, even as small as a grain of dust, is enough to build up blessings like a mountain. An evil deed, no matter how carefully hidden, will build into a report of suffering according to conditions. In today's life, people are busy and competitive, everyone worrying for themselves. Sometimes we forget that just by stopping for a few seconds, just by acting a little out of humanity, we can change the entire life of another person. Being decisive in good deeds is not recklessness, but mindfulness in the heart. For if we do not dare to walk, the path of goodness will remain forever a theory. There is a story about a young person named Min. This story happened on a night of heavy rain, and his small but decisive action opened an unexpected blessing for him. Min worked as a worker in an industrial zone on the outskirts of the city. That day he finished his shift late. The rain was pouring down, the road was slippery and deserted. Min hurried to ride his bike home when he suddenly saw on the side of the road under a tree a child, about 8 or 9 years old, shivering, soaked, holding a backpack and crying. Passers-by looked, but everyone was busy. Everyone was hesitant to stop their bikes in the rain. Min, at that time, also hesitated. He thought maybe the child's parents were coming soon, and then thought he was already too late getting home and had to go to work early tomorrow. But then, in that moment, he remembered his mother's teaching: if you meet someone more suffering than yourself, stop if you can help. He took a breath, turned his bike around, and pulled over to the side. Min approached and asked softly, "Child, why are you standing here alone?" The child shivered and said, "I'm lost. I can't find my house. My mother's phone is out of battery." Min looked around. The rain was still heavy, not a single acquaintance in sight. He hesitated for a few seconds, then opened the bike trunk, took an extra raincoat, and put it on the little one. He rode his bike slowly, talking as they went. Finally, he decided to take the child to the local police station nearby. When they arrived, the duty officer asked questions and then contacted the child's family. The father arrived in a hurry, soaked with water, and hugged his child in tears. He thanked Min profusely, but Min only smiled. "I also once got lost when I was little, so I understand the feeling. I'm just glad I could help." He left with a strange sense of peace. Time passed, and Min encountered a crisis. The company where he worked downsized its staff, and his contract was terminated. For nearly 2 months, he ran everywhere looking for a job but couldn't find one. The rent was almost due, his heart was anxious, and his faith was shaken. One day, while sitting in a small cafe waiting for an interview, he happened to meet a man who started a conversation. The man looked at him intently for a moment and asked, "Are you Min? I remember now, you are the one who helped my son that day." Min was stunned and then recognized that was the father from years ago. He was currently working as the human resources director of a large company. They talked for a while, and just a week later, Min was officially hired at that company with a position even better than his old job. When telling the story, Min only said, "At that time I didn't think much. I just felt I couldn't leave the child in the rain. I didn't expect that small deed would open such a great opportunity for me." The Buddha taught that as long as a virtuous mind arises, heaven and earth will provide support. When we act with a bright mind, not seeking profit and not fearing loss, then this very universe will arrange good things for us. Perhaps not immediately, but when blessings are sufficient, the fruit will bloom. Good deeds are never meaningless. Sometimes a timely inquiry saves a person from despair. Sometimes a small act, like helping someone across the road, makes them remember for a lifetime. Each good action is a lamp. When many lamps shine together, the world will be less dark. But that lamp only shines when we decide to light it up, rather than just thinking about it. A student of the Buddha does not only keep precepts and chant sutras, but must also know how to act mindfully. Mindfulness in every good deed. It means we are clearly aware of what we are doing and of the compassion that is present. When we help people without expecting repayment, when we stop without calculation, then at that very moment our mind is dwelling in wholesome states. The Buddha once said, "A good action is a flower in the wind. Its fragrance spreads everywhere without the sower needing to see it." Therefore, if we only think about good things but do not do them, the flower will never bloom. Someone once asked, "Master, how do I know which deed is truly good?" I said, "If you do it, and your heart is light, your mind is cool, without resentment, without fear, and without expecting others to repay the favor, that is goodness. But if you do it, and your mind clings, hoping to be praised, then you have only sown goodness in words, not yet in the heart. A truly virtuous person is one who dares to act as soon as they see a need, because they do not wait for perfect circumstances. They understand that hesitation is sometimes a way of unintentionally turning one's back on the opportunity to sow blessings. Life is short. Time passes as fast as a breath. If today we see someone needing help, do it as soon as possible, because who knows, in that very action we are resolving an old karma or opening a new good affinity. Don't wait for someone to tell you. Don't fear what others think. Whatever they do is their business, as long as your own mind is bright. The Buddha taught that when a virtuous mind arises, blessings follow like a shadow that doesn't leave the form. Doing a good thing, even if small, is better than 1,000 promises of goodness that are not performed. After hearing Min's story, someone said, "If everyone were like him, this world would be much warmer." Truly, warmth does not come from material things but from the human heart. When we are decisive in performing good deeds, we are lighting the fire of faith and of love within our hearts, and that very fire will warm other souls. Now, if possible, stop for a few minutes, close your eyes, take a very deep breath, and then exhale very slowly. Listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your breath going in and out. In that breath, we feel our hearts settle down. Remember the times you once hesitated before a good deed and give rise to the vow that from now on, when meeting an opportunity, you will dare to step forward, not because you want to be praised, but because your heart feels at peace. Today's practice is very simple. Every day, when you go out on the street and meet someone who needs help, even if it's a small gesture like picking up a dropped item, supporting an elderly person, yielding the way to someone, or saying a kind word, do it immediately. Consider that a way of practicing meditation in action. Every good deed is a time we train the mind, a breath of mindfulness. When we act with a bright mind, the body will be light, the heart will be joyful, and blessings will increase. When night comes, before going to sleep, you can place your hand on your chest, breathe in deeply, and ask yourself, what good deed did I do today? Even if it was a small task, smile with gratitude. That very moment is when blessings bloom in the heart. A wise person never hesitates in performing good deeds, because they understand that every time they do good, they are sowing seeds of joy for the future. Heaven and earth do not fail a person with a bright mind. Doing good and then forgetting is like rain soaking the earth. Doing evil and then fearing is like fire burning the hand. As long as we live with a decisive heart and dare to act for the sake of goodness, life will naturally be joyful and expansive. The Buddha taught that a wise person performs good deeds without seeking blessings, yet the blessings come naturally. An unwise person seeks blessings without performing good deeds, so the blessings do not materialize. That saying is a reminder for all of us. Do not just pray for peace, create peace through your own actions. Therefore, to those who are hearing these words, if within your heart there is a seed of kindness, please do not let it sleep, nourish it with action. When we are decisive in doing good deeds, we are deciding to sow the seeds for happiness. And when we sow enough good seeds, this life will become a garden full of the fragrance of blessings. In today's volatile life, perhaps each of us has at one time felt caught in the inescapable whirlwind of greed. We work day and night. We strive for one thing after another, hoping to have more, to be better, to be higher than others. But the more we try, the more we find the heart is empty. Wealth increases, material things are more sufficient, but the mind is insecure, the body is tired, and sleep is no longer peaceful. Many people imagine that having a lot of money, a lot of power, and much praise is happiness. But then, when lying in the hospital, when hearing the sound of the ventilator nearby, one only then understands that all those things cannot buy peace. The Buddha taught that in human life, suffering is due to the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Those three fires burn our minds every day, causing us to lose the inherent purity in our souls. Greed is wanting to possess, wanting to have for oneself. Anger is being furious when things don't go as desired. Ignorance is being deluded and not seeing the truth. People often think that a little greed is okay, that greed is the motivation to live. But the Buddha clearly pointed out that greed is like a bottomless well. The more you draw, the more empty it is. Because when we achieve what we want, the mind gives rise to another desire for something more, something bigger. And so, our whole life we chase endlessly until we are exhausted, yet still find no true happiness. Look around. We will see so many people working day and night, exhausting their minds and bodies to have more money and fame. But how many are truly happy? They buy more material things, but their hearts lack love. They can eat delicious food in luxurious houses, but have no meal that is truly peaceful. Greed causes people to lose the present because the mind is always directed toward the future, toward what one does not yet have. The more ambitions, the less peace. The Buddha once taught, a person who knows contentment, even lying on the ground, is happy. One who does not know contentment, even in a heavenly palace, is not yet satisfied. Those words are simple yet penetrate deep into the human heart. There is a story about a merchant named Kwai. He was extremely wealthy, with countless assets, but never felt satisfied. He worked without rest, ate and drank irregularly, and stayed up late every night to calculate, fearing the loss of what he had. One day, he fell seriously ill and was bedridden, his body as thin as a stick. Many famous doctors were invited, but no one could cure him. Finally, an old physician entered, looked at him for a moment, and smiled kindly. "Your illness is not of the body, but of the mind. I have 3 prescriptions. If you are willing to listen, the illness will heal itself." Mr. Kwai tiredly asked, "What are those 3 prescriptions?" The physician replied, "First, rest to heal the body. Second, give to lighten the mind. Third, let go to clear the intellect." He heard this with surprise. "Resting, I understand, but how can giving and letting go cure illness?" The physician smiled. "Your body is weak because your mind is tired. Your mind is tired because you keep wanting to hold on to everything. Try giving for once, and you will feel light. When you no longer fear loss, the body will recover itself." From that day on, Mr. Kwai began to follow the advice. He temporarily stopped working and went to the countryside to live quietly. Every day he went to the market to help the poor with a few coins, talked to young children, and gave medicine to the sick. At first, he found it strange, because previously he was used to receiving rather than giving, but only after a short while he realized a miracle. Every time he gave, his heart felt more joyful. Those nights he no longer had to calculate. Sleep returned, the breath was lighter, and the body gradually became healthy. After 3 months, he fully recovered. He returned to find the physician, bowed in gratitude. "Master, you have cured me with precious medicine." The teacher laughed. "No, I only showed you where the medicine was. The real medicine lies in your heart. When the mind is free of greed, the poison dissolves. When you know how to let go, the body naturally heals." From then on, Mr. Kwai no longer sought to be better than others. He lived simply, finding joy in small things. A morning cup of tea, a smile from a passerby, a cool breeze, all were enough to make him feel happy. People still called him Compassionate Mr. Kwai, because wherever he went, he spread peace and joy. And he often said to those who came to him for advice, "Letting go of one part of greed, the heart gains one part of blessing." That story seems old, but is still true for each person today. We are also the Mr. Kwai of modern times, chasing after work, material things, and fame, while forgetting that we are losing health and losing simple joys. Many people, for a small immediate profit, trade away relationships. For greed of profit, lose morality. But can anyone take anything with them when they depart? This body eventually is just dust. Only the good karma or evil karma we create follows us forever. Therefore, the wise do not accumulate wealth, but accumulate blessings. Do not gather money, but gather merits. The Buddha taught that a person who knows how to give is never poor, and a person who knows how to share is never lacking, because giving is not just handing over material things but letting go of one's own attachment. When we give, the heart opens, the light of compassion spreads, and blessings naturally find their way to us. A kind word, a good action, a shared smile are all ways we dissolve greed and lighten the karma of the mind. Someone asked, "If I'm not greedy, will I lose the motivation to live?" No, because letting go of greed does not mean giving up striving. Striving for happiness, for helping people, for perfecting oneself is precious. But striving with a content mind, without clinging, without jealousy, that is the middle path the Buddha taught. Remember that greed is like a thirst from drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. The more ambitions a person has, the less happiness they have. Real happiness does not come from how much we have, but from how much we can feel. A person eating plain rice with salted melon, whose mind is at peace, is still happier than someone sitting at a luxurious banquet table worrying about loss. When we let go of greed, life becomes wide open and every moment becomes a joy. To heal the mind of greed, we can start with small practices. Every morning, spend a few minutes in stillness, breathe in very deeply, breathe out very slowly, and reflect on the phrase, "I know contentment." Feel the breath in and out. Feel that the body is still alive, healthy, still able to see loved ones, still able to hear birds, and the wind that is already a blessing. Every day, try to give away something. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be a word of encouragement, a smile, or simply forgiving someone. When we give, that is the moment we are detoxifying our own minds. At night before sleeping, sit quietly, close your eyes, and ask yourself, did I make anyone sad today because of greed? Did I hurt anyone because of my desires? If so, say softly in your heart, "I'm sorry, please let me learn to let go." Just a little like that every day, our minds will gradually become clear and greed will no longer master us. A person who knows contentment is the richest person. Rich because they are no longer controlled by material things, no longer chasing after empty fame. They are happy with a simple meal, happy when seeing their children healthy, and moved by the hearts of others. They may not have much wealth, but they have the greatest treasure, which is peace. As for those who do not know contentment, even with a house full of silver and gold, they still feel lack, still fear loss, and still suffer. Therefore, the Buddha taught that letting go is not losing, but reclaiming freedom for your mind. When the mind is free, we truly live. If you are still tired from having to hold on to too much, from fearing the loss of too much, remember the story of Mr. Kwai. The 3 prescriptions of his life, resting for a healthy body, giving for a light heart, and letting go for a clear intellect, are also the 3 precious remedies the Buddha handed to sentient beings thousands of years ago. Learn how to rest in the true sense, not only thinking for the body but also for the mind. Learn how to give without needing to receive back, because giving is the way for the mind to be opened. And learn how to let go of hatred, let go of jealousy, let go of attachments. When letting go, you will see your heart as wide as the sky, as light as the autumn wind, as bright as a dewdrop on a leaf. In this peaceful breath, we can silently recite, letting go of one part of greed, the heart gains one part of blessing. That phrase is not just a reminder, but a path of practice. Every time we see ourselves giving rise to the mind of wanting to possess or wanting to compete, stop and reflect. Is this really necessary? Does it bring me peace? If not, smile and let it go. Because happiness is not far away. It's right at the moment you are willing to let go. And when we know how to live like that, the world naturally becomes gentle. Those around us also enjoy peace from the light energy in our minds. That is the greatest blessing, the blessing of letting go of greed. The Buddha taught that a person who knows contentment is the richest person in the world. When we live with contentment, our mind will be bright, our intellect will be clear, our body will be healthy, and our life will be peaceful. Like Mr. Kwai from the past, from a person suffering because of greed to a person free because of letting go, allow me to send you a small compassionate reminder. No one can take anything with them in this life. Only blessings and karma follow forever. So choose to accumulate blessings by living virtuously, knowing contentment, and letting go of greed. Give a little love, let go of a little attachment, and rest a little so the body and mind can heal. Then you will see that peace is not far away. It's right in this very breath. Take a very deep breath, smile, and tell yourself, I know contentment, I am happy. In this life, each of us has experienced times when the heart felt heavy with the feeling of lack. Sometimes it is a lack of money, sometimes a lack of love, sometimes a lack of a hand to hold us in lonely times. As years go by, people tend to cling tighter, fearing loss, fearing disadvantage, and fearing others will have more than them. We forget that there are things we only truly have when we give them away. Many people live their whole lives in worry, trying to accumulate a lot of wealth, but finally find the mind is empty. Yet there are others who have nothing in their hands, but their smiles are as bright as the sun, because they know how to give, how to share. The Buddha taught that blessings do not lie in how much we have, but in how we give. There are those who give little, yet the blessing is great. There are those who give much, yet no blessing arises. Because blessings are not measured by objects, but by the mind. A person who gives with compassion, not expecting repayment, then even a cup of water or a word of comfort sows a good seed. But a person who gives to show off, to calculate, or to be praised, then even bringing out a mountain of gold will not accumulate much merit. Because, as the Buddha taught, the mind is the root of all karma. A good mind produces blessings, an evil mind destroys blessings. In modern life, people's hearts often become more closed. We worry about keeping what is ours, fearing loss, and fearing being exploited. But that very closedness makes us lonely and makes human love fade. When seeing someone needing help, we hesitate. Should I help? What's the point of helping? It is those questions that prevent blessings from coming to us, because blessings do not come from rational calculation, but from a heart that naturally knows how to love. The ancients said that giving is keeping forever. That is not just a moral teaching, but the truth of cause and effect. There is a very profound Zen saying, giving without expectation is opening the door to heaven within the mind. When we give without wanting to be praised, without praying for blessings, but only out of love, at that very moment, our mind has touched the realm of joy. That heaven is not far away, not a place with palaces or celestial beings, but right in our heart that knows how to give without seeking anything. I want to tell you the story of Mrs. Sao, a poor woman living in a remote rural area. Her whole life, Mrs. Sao lived in a small house by the river. The thatched roof was old, and the earthen walls were patchy. She had few assets, only growing some vegetables and raising a chicken and a dog, living a simple life day by day. But she was famous in the village for her kind heart and willingness to help people. Whoever was in difficulty, she was ready to share the little she had, whether it was just a bowl of rice or a sweet potato. One freezing winter night, the wind blew from the field through the thatched roof, bringing a cold that cut through the skin and flesh. Mrs. Sao was lying curled up in an old blanket when she heard a weak knock on the door. She opened the door and saw a beggar standing shivering, his body thin, clothes ragged, feet bare, and his tired eyes looking at her as if pleading. He said softly, "Madam, please let me sleep here overnight. It's too cold. I'm afraid I won't survive the night." Mrs. Sao looked around the house. There was only a single blanket, and the wind was blowing through. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled kindly. "Come in, sit down here. I'll give you this blanket to keep warm." The beggar shook his head. "No, you are old. You need it more than me." But she said, "I'm still strong. I can endure. You are weak. You need it more." So she took the only blanket from her bed and draped it over the old man. That night, she lay on the mat, shivering, but surprisingly, her heart felt warmer than ever. She heard the wind whistling outside, but did not feel cold, because a small fire was burning in her heart, the fire of compassion. The next morning, the beggar left, thanking her profusely with tears in his eyes. A few months later, Mrs. Sao received a letter from her son, working as a laborer in Saigon. It had been a long time since he had written home to report that his work was now stable, and he sent some money for her to repair the house and buy furniture. She held the letter and laughed through tears. Everyone in the village said she was very blessed, that heaven loved her. But she only said softly, "It's not that heaven loves me, but that the human heart loves back." Mrs. Sao's story sounds simple but contains a deep morality. The Buddha taught that giving is the seed of blessings. When we give, it is never lost. What is lost is external material, but what is gained is a pure mind and an invisible wholesome blessing. Many people ask, "I am too poor, what can I give?" But giving does not necessarily have to be wealth. A smile, an inquiry, an instance of forgiveness, or a prayer, all are forms of giving. In Buddhism, there are three forms of giving: material giving, giving of the Dhamma, and giving of fearlessness. Material giving is sharing possessions, whether little or much. Giving of the Dhamma is sharing understanding, correct teachings, and advising people to do good. Giving of fearlessness is helping people stop being afraid through compassion and protection. Mrs. Sao, with the simple act of giving her blanket, did all three: gave material, sowed peace, and dispelled the fear in another person's heart. What is worth mentioning is that she gave without any thought of being repaid. That very selflessness made the blessing grow, because if we give to receive, that is an exchange. If we give because of love, that is a blessing. A selfless mind is a bright mind. When the mind is pure, compassionate energy spreads, making our lives as light as the morning wind. If you have ever felt heavy and insecure in your heart, try giving something away. It could be some time listening to someone in pain. It could be a meal for a wanderer, or simply helping a small cat across the road. When we give, not only is the other person saved, but we ourselves are saved. Because at that moment, we step out of the selfish ego and see ourselves as one with all. In the Dhamma there is a saying, "A person who sows seeds of compassion reaps fruits of joy." When we help someone, a wholesome cause has been sown. Even if the fruit does not bloom immediately, it is certainly not lost. Sometimes the blessing comes immediately, like Mrs. Sao, receiving money from her son. Sometimes the blessing comes in the mind as a peaceful feeling, sleeping well, and not being afraid. Also, sometimes the blessing comes in the next life, helping us be born in a good place. Meeting virtuous people, the fruit is never wrong. One way to practice giving is through meditation on gratitude. Every day, spend a few minutes closing your eyes, breathing deeply, breathing slowly, and thinking about the things you have. A roof to shield from rain and sun, a hot meal, a loved one still by your side. All are blessings. When we are grateful, the heart naturally gives rise to the desire to share. From there, the act of giving becomes light and natural as a breath. When the mind is grateful, we see that nothing is lacking. When the mind loves, we will no longer fear giving away. And when we give out of compassion, we are opening the door to heaven within ourselves, without waiting until we go to the Buddha's realm. Heaven is present right at the moment the heart is filled with love. Try one morning. Instead of rushing, spend some time preparing a portion of food and bring it to the lottery ticket seller at the corner. Try one evening. When someone in the house makes you angry, smile, be quiet, and then say softly, "It's okay." That is also giving endurance, giving peace. And you will see that just a small action makes the heart warm strangely. The Buddha taught that a person who knows how to give is a person sowing seeds for future happiness. Giving not only helps others but is a way to practice the mind. When giving, we are gradually eroding greed, reducing attachment and the ego. A light mind makes a light life. A person who knows how to give is someone walking steady steps on the path to liberation. In each breath, we can visualize, breathing in, I know I am sufficient, breathing out, I send love to everyone. Just like that, compassionate energy will spread, making everything around us gentler. A person who knows how to give will always be loved because they are a source of warm light amidst a cold life. Remember the Buddha's teaching, one lamp that is lit can light 1,000 other lamps without losing its own light. When we give, the light within us does not decrease but spreads further. So do not fear losing, because giving is the best way to keep. Mrs. Sao's story is a gentle reminder that blessings are not far away, but right in every virtuous action. An old blanket, a bowl of rice, a word of comfort, all can become seeds of infinite blessings. A person who knows how to give, even if poor in material things, is rich in blessings. A person who does not know how to give, even if rich in money, is poor in the heart. Therefore, if today you feel your life has many unsatisfactory things, do not just pray to receive more. Start by giving faith, giving love, and giving peace in the mind. And then, like a flowing stream, what you send out will return in another form. Sometimes it is blessings, sometimes peace, sometimes just a smile someone gives you. When we know how to give, we are learning to live according to the Buddha's path. Because the Buddha did not teach us to be rich or to be better than others, but taught us to love, to understand, and to know how to let go. And when our heart is filled with compassion, we will see everything around us becoming good. So, imprint that teaching in your heart. Giving without expectation is opening the door to heaven within the mind. Practice giving every day, even just a little. And then you will see life become light, the mind become peaceful, and blessings will naturally come like flowers blooming in the morning sun. In a life full of competition and chaos, humans are always searching for peace. But the more we go, the more we see the mind pulled into tangled things. There are people living in abundance, but at night still cannot sleep peacefully. There are people with fame and profit, but their hearts are always insecure, afraid, suspicious, and worried about something unnamed. Actually, that insecurity does not come from the outside, but largely from wrong actions and thoughts. Small things we do wrong, without even realizing it. When we do something contrary to conscience or contrary to morality, the mind immediately gives rise to thoughts of fear and unease, from which afflictions are born. Therefore, the Buddha taught that to have true peace, one must start by keeping the precepts, because precepts are the root of purity and the foundation of all blessings and wisdom. The Buddha taught that keeping precepts is protecting the body and mind, like a person walking in the forest who is afraid of sharp thorns and wears shoes so as not to be hurt. Precepts are not a burden or a restrictive mold, but a shield protecting the soul. A person who keeps the precepts is like someone walking on a clean path. Knowing where there is mud, they avoid it. Knowing where it is slippery, they go slowly. But someone who does not keep the precepts is like a person walking with eyes closed in the night, easily stumbling, easily getting lost, and then suffering comes from the very things they caused. A layperson, though not living in a temple, still has 5 basic precepts to maintain so that the mind is at peace and blessings increase. First, do not kill. The Buddha taught that all sentient beings fear death and crave life. Taking oneself as an example, one should not kill, nor cause others to kill. When we kill, even small species, the mind has already given rise to violence, sowing seeds of pain. On the contrary, when we compassionate and help lives, merit is immediately born. Someone might say it's just a fish or an ant, what does it matter? But in the law of cause and effect, nothing is small. An evil thought, though small, still makes the mind polluted. A wholesome thought, though tiny, still helps the mind brighten. A person who knows how to keep the precept of non-killing is a person who knows how to respect life and knows how to live in harmony with all species. Second, do not steal. Everyone treasures possessions in this life because they are the effort and sweat of each person. If we take from others even a little, our mind has already made us poorer in blessings. The Buddha taught that for one who does not take what is not given, merit will be like a stream flowing without drying up. Keeping this precept helps us live uprightly, have self-respect, and be content with what we have. When the mind knows contentment, life will naturally be stable. Third, do not commit sexual misconduct. This precept speaks not only of behavior, but also of purity in the mind. Sexual misconduct harms both body and mind, causing families to disintegrate and people to lose trust. The Buddha taught that a person who knows how to maintain pure conduct will have a bright appearance and a light body and mind. When we live faithfully and maintain full trust with our partner, we are sowing the seeds of true happiness. Fourth, do not lie. Words can save people and can also kill people. A malicious word can hurt someone for a lifetime. Therefore, the Buddha taught that a person should guard the mouth like guarding a city gate. Words coming out must be considered. Speaking the truth is keeping the precept. Speaking kind words is sowing blessings. When we speak virtuous words, our mind is at peace, and the listener is also happy. Fifth, do not drink alcohol or use intoxicants. This precept helps us maintain mindfulness, because when intoxicated, we easily do wrong, easily become indulgent, and easily violate other precepts. The ancients said that alcohol is the root of all sins. When the mind is not clear and the intellect is not bright, actions easily go astray. Therefore, keeping this precept is to protect both body and mind, helping us live mindfully in every action. A person who keeps the precepts does so not because of fear of punishment, but because of love for themselves and for others. Precepts are the root of blessings, blessings are the cause of wisdom, and wisdom is the path leading to liberation. For the one who keeps the precepts, the mind is at peace and the body is light. Life is simple but happy. There are people poor in material things, but rich in blessings. Because they live uprightly, do not deceive anyone, do not do evil, and always know how to help people within their ability. The story of Naam, a grocery seller in a small area, is evidence of that. He lived simply and kindly. His shop was not large, just a small stall at the corner of the market, selling everything from salt packets and oil bottles to small miscellaneous items. People loved him because he was honest and never deceptive. Once, an elderly, confused woman mistakenly gave him a large bill while only buying a few small items. He held the money, looked carefully, and called her back to return the change. The old woman tearfully joined her hands in thanks. Many people in the market saw this and felt a sense of appreciation in their hearts. From that day on, whoever bought anything also sought out Naam's shop, because they believed he would never deceive them. Then, once a large merchant came and ordered a lot. Naam still kept the correct price without adding or subtracting. That merchant was moved, and later became a close business partner. His shop just developed like that. People said, he has the affinity for business. But actually, it was the blessing from keeping the precepts that made it so. Because he did not steal, did not cheat, and did not lie, his mind was always bright, and his blessings were always increasing. When the mind is clear, people see the honesty in his eyes and naturally trust him. Keeping precepts is not something distant, but a specific action in every small task. When we return a found sum of money, when we don't speak ill of anyone, when we refuse a temporary pleasure to keep the mind pure, that is precisely practicing the precepts. A person who does not keep the precepts, even if wealthy and famous, is always afraid and insecure in the mind. But a person who keeps the precepts, even if living simply, feels light because they know they have harmed no one and cheated no one. The Buddha taught that for one who keeps the precepts, merit comes naturally, like a shadow, not leaving the form. Precepts are the soil, blessings are the tree, and wisdom is the flower. Without soil, trees don't grow. Without precepts, blessings are not born. A person who keeps the precepts is like a person planting a tree in the right season and right soil. Only needing light care, the tree will naturally be healthy. In today's life, some think that keeping precepts is the work of practitioners and not necessary for lay people. But actually, keeping precepts is practicing the mind. And practicing the mind is something everyone needs. A person who knows how to tell the truth, knows how to love people, and knows how to avoid evil is a person practicing the path in the middle of life. Even without being in a temple, without chanting sutras, and without bowing much, if the mind is kept pure, that is living in the Buddha's Dhamma. Someone asked me, is keeping precepts difficult? I only smiled kindly and said that it is difficult when the mind still has greed, anger, and ignorance. It is easy when we know how to love, how to let go, and how to be content. Keeping precepts is not suppression but liberation. When we do not kill, we liberate ourselves from the karma of killing. When we do not steal, we liberate ourselves from greed. When we do not commit sexual misconduct, we liberate ourselves from desire. When we do not lie, we liberate ourselves from fear. When we are not intoxicated, we liberate ourselves from delusion. To nourish the precepts, we need to practice mindfulness every day. Every time we intend to do something or say something, we stop and ask our heart, will this action hurt anyone? Will it cause me or others to lose peace? If the answer is yes, then we know that is not the right path. Just like that, the precepts are kept, the mind is at peace, and blessings will gradually grow. Now please join in 1 minute of mindfulness. Sit quietly, relax your shoulders, relax your face, breathe in deeply, feel the cool air entering the chest, breathe out, smile slightly, and feel the peace in the heart. Breathing in, we know we are still alive, and still have the opportunity to do good deeds. Breathing out, we vow from now on to keep the precepts, live uprightly, harm no one, do not deceive, and do not be greedy. Just 1 minute of mindfulness like that. We have sown a virtuous seed in the mind. Keeping precepts is not something only done when in a temple or in rituals, but in every moment of life. When going to the market, when talking, when eating, and when facing others, we can keep the precepts. Precepts do not lie in form, but in intention. A person with the mind to keep precepts finds that everywhere is a temple, and everything done is practice. Finally, remember the Buddha's teaching. Keeping precepts is protecting oneself from suffering. A person who knows how to keep the precepts, even when encountering adversity, is not afraid because their mind is bright and their heart is straight. In a volatile world, only precepts help us stand firm like a mountain amidst a storm. Therefore, each of us, whether a lay person or a practitioner, let us practice keeping the precepts bit by bit every day. Do not think it is small and skip it, because it is those small things that will build great blessings. Precepts do not make our life narrow, but open a wide path of freedom and joy. Precepts help us not to be pulled away by an evil mind, help us live mindfully, and help us be grateful and love people. When the precepts in our mind are firm, blessings will come, wisdom will be bright, and the path to liberation will open. So please ask yourself every day, what good deed did I do today? Did I speak the truth? Did I hurt anyone? Each time you ask like that, you are reflecting on yourself with the lamp of wisdom. And once that light has kindled, the darkness of ignorance naturally vanishes. May all sentient beings know how to keep the precepts, live in mindfulness, be pure in body and mind, have complete blessings, and together walk on the path of liberation that the Buddha taught. In this life, each of us has had times when we were tired, times when the heart felt heavy, as if carrying the whole world on our shoulders. Sometimes because of loss, sometimes because of betrayal, sometimes because we feel all our efforts are understood by no one. Then we ask ourselves, why is life so full of injustice? Why does joy never stay long? Why do people easily change their hearts? Why do beautiful things always fade quickly? No one answers those questions, but the Buddha taught from ancient times, all phenomena are impermanent, appearing and disappearing, changing. That is the nature of this world. When we understand impermanence, our hearts suffer less because we no longer cling to things that cannot be kept forever. The Buddha taught that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, like a dewdrop on the tip of a blade of grass, like a flash of lightning in the night sky. That sutra verse is not just the word of an enlightened one, but a mirror reflecting all suffering in life. Because humans suffer not because of loss, but because of clinging to what is inherently destined to be lost. We hurt because we want to keep what nothing in this world can keep. Today we are young, tomorrow our hair is tinged with grey. Today a loved one is by our side, tomorrow they have turned into a memory. Today a flower is in full bloom, but when evening falls, the petals have already begun to wither. Human life is like that flower, blooming in an instant and fading in the natural way. Reflecting on impermanence is not to be sad, but to be awakened. When we know everything changes, we will stop blaming, stop being angry, and stop competing. A person who understands impermanence will live lightly, knowing how to treasure every breath. Every day they can still see the sun and still hear the birds singing. The Buddha taught that nothing is stable. Only the mindful mind is the path to escape suffering. When our mind is bright, we look at life with understanding, not clinging, not being attached, and naturally being at peace. In the contemplation of Dhamma, the Buddha taught 3 core things that anyone who wants to escape suffering should practice. Contemplation of the body as impure, contemplation of the mind as impermanent, and contemplation of phenomena as selfless. These three contemplations are like three lamps illuminating the darkness of ignorance in the human mind. First is contemplation of the body as impure. Humans, because they love the body, give rise to much affliction. Because of loving the body, they fear illness, fear death, and fear loss. But ask yourself, is there anything real about this body? The Buddha taught that this body is formed by earth, water, wind, and fire. When the causes and conditions dissolve, the body also dissolves. The body is just a composite, not stable, not clean, and cannot be kept forever. Every day we must eat, must drink, must sleep, and must bathe, because if not, the body will decay. When we understand the body is a temporary composite, we become less arrogant, less attached to the ego, and less afraid. We know this body is just a temporary residence, not our permanent home. Second is contemplation of the mind as impermanent. The mind is like the wind, sometimes sad, sometimes happy, sometimes loving, sometimes hating, never stopping for a moment. Yesterday we were angry, today we love again. Today we are happy, tomorrow sad again. The mind changes every moment, like a flowing stream that never stops. Because of not clearly seeing that, we are pulled away by emotions, and then suffer and regret. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a monkey swinging between branches, like a monkey jumping about. If we don't know how to contemplate, we will be commanded by the mind. But when we look clearly at the mind as impermanent, we are no longer afraid of emotions. We see sadness come and sadness go, like clouds flying across the sky. We see anger come and anger go, like waves hitting the shore and then vanishing. When we know how to watch the mind will naturally settle. Third is contemplation of phenomena as selfless. Phenomena here mean every phenomenon, everything, and every person in this life. Nothing exists independently. All rely on each other to be born, and a combination of conditions to be formed. Like a flower, must have soil, water, sun, and someone to care for it. If one of those things is missing, the flower cannot bloom. Therefore, the Buddha taught there is no separate self. There is only a temporary combination of conditions. When understanding selflessness, we no longer cling to the ego, no longer compete, and no longer give rise to pride. A person who can live like that naturally has an expansive mind and a naturally tolerant heart. The story of Han is a simple but profound example of the contemplation of impermanence. Han was a gentle woman living in a small rural area. She loved planting flowers, especially the queen of the night. Each morning she woke up very early to admire the blooming flowers, brilliant and fragrant. But by the afternoon, when the sun had just hidden deep behind the bamboo groves, those flowers had already begun to wither and fall. Initially, Han was very sad. She felt regret, pain, and love for the flowers she cared for every day that only bloomed for one morning and then faded. One day, while watching the falling flowers, she suddenly stopped, looking deeply at a petal still on her hand. She thought, flowers are impermanent, even more so a human life. She suddenly understood, flowers bloom and then fade, just as humans are born and then die. How can meetings and partings be kept forever? From that day on, she was no longer sad when flowers faded. She smiled, knowing that the flower had fulfilled its role, blooming with all its heart for life, even if only for one day, just like humans. As long as they live with all their heart and love fully, then even if life is short, it is extremely precious. From the time she understood impermanence, Han became gentler, less hot-tempered, and less competitive. When someone accidentally said something unkind, she wasn't angry, only smiled, thinking that anger would pass, sadness would end, and there was nothing to be heavy-hearted about. When her children were lazy in studying, she didn't scold, only gently taught them. She felt her heart was peaceful and light, like that flower, blooming in life, not needing praise and not fearing criticism. The Buddha taught that when impermanence is seen, the wise will no longer have greedy attachments and will no longer cling, but live fully in the present. Truly, when we clearly see impermanence, we will treasure the moments we are alive. We will know how to speak words of love while we still can, know how to apologize while there is still an opportunity, and know how to forgive while there are still people to forgive. We do not leave love for tomorrow, only knowing that tomorrow might not come. People often say impermanence is sad, but actually, impermanence is the miracle of life. Thanks to impermanence, a sick person can become healthy again, a suffering person can be happy, and an erring person can change. Impermanence does not take everything away, but only reminds us not to cling to anything forever. Thanks to that, we know how to live every minute, every second fully, and know how to treasure what we have. Now, please sit quietly and practice contemplation in the breath. Let the body relax. Place both hands lightly on the thighs. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Feel the cool air entering the lungs. Breathe out. Let go of all sorrows. Breathing in. Know that this body is alive. Breathing. Breathing out. Know that this body is impermanent. One day it will return to earth, water, wind, and fire. Breathing in. Know that emotions are changing. Breathing out. Smile and accept everything. Each breath is a contemplation. When breathing in, we know we are still alive. When breathing out, we know life is impermanent. From there, a heart of deep gratitude arises. Be grateful for this body. Though fragile, it still gives us the opportunity to practice, to love, and to understand. Be grateful to the people around us. Whether they come or go, they all help us grow. Be grateful even for suffering, because suffering teaches us to understand impermanence and know how to live more mindfully. If someone is suffering because of loss, please remember that nothing is completely lost in this universe. Everything only transforms. Our loved ones are lost, but love still remains in our hearts. A flower falls, but the scent remains. The sun sets, but dawn will rise again. Life is a continuous stream, not stopping at one place, one person, or one moment. Impermanence is also the greatest lesson, teaching how to let go. When we know everything changes, we are no longer stubborn and no longer want to hold on to anything. We love without binding, give without expecting to receive back, and live without fear. Only then are we truly free. The Buddha taught that letting go is not losing, but seeing clearly there is nothing to lose. A person who understands that, though living amidst a volatile life, still maintains a peaceful smile. I want to send you a small message. Every time you feel insecure in your heart, stop and look into impermanence. Look at a falling leaf, a blowing wind, a flying cloud. See that everything has passed. The anger in the heart will also pass. The sadness will also pass. Only peace remains if we are willing to stop and look deeply. May we all know how to contemplate impermanence and live mindfully in each breath to see that life is not scary. As long as we know how to live peacefully, when we understand impermanence, we no longer fear death, no longer worry about loss, but only feel the heart as light as a cloud, bright as the moon, and still as water. And in that stillness, we recognize the miracle. Peace is already present in our mind, only waiting for us to return. Perhaps in life, everyone has had those nights lying restlessly, their hearts heavy with an unnamed worry. Worry for the future, worry for children, worry for health, and sometimes worry about whether one will wake up tomorrow. Modern life causes humans to race with time, with fame and profit, with fleeting things, while forgetting that all is only temporary. There are those who try to accumulate money, status, and power, but when impermanence knocks at the door, no one can take anything with them except the good or bad karma they sowed. That fear, if we do not understand, will make life always like a lamp before the wind, flickering and fragile. But if we learn to look straight into impermanence, not with fear but with acceptance, the heart will naturally be peaceful. The Buddha taught that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, like a dream, like an illusion, like a bubble, like morning dew. That saying is not to make people pessimistic, but to awaken us. Because of impermanence, we must know to treasure the present. Because of impermanence, we need to correct the mind, sow virtuous deeds, and let go of attachments that cause us pain. A person who understands impermanence no longer fears loss, no longer hates, and is no longer greedy. They only live fully every moment they have with compassion and wisdom. Look around us. A flower blooms in the morning and fades in the evening. A rainy season passes, the sun returns, and everything changes. This body is the same, and this mind is the same. There are people who yesterday were healthy and today lie on a sickbed. There are people who this morning were laughing and talking and by the evening have left this world. Impermanence spares no one. Yet people still mistakenly think they can keep everything forever. The tighter they hold, the more they suffer. The more they fear loss, the more they never feel sufficient. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught 4 contemplations: contemplation of the body as impure, contemplation of feelings as suffering, contemplation of the mind as impermanent, and contemplation of phenomena as selfless. When we contemplate deeply, we will see that all things are in the process of arising, dwelling, changing, and ceasing. Nothing is permanent. Even joys and sorrows are just waves rising and then vanishing. A person who understands this will no longer blame life. They know that suffering is also a teacher helping us grow. Loss is also an opportunity for us to look back at ourselves. There is a simple story, but it contains a deep lesson. In a small village, there was Mr. Loy, a person who worked hard his whole life. He dreamed of building a very large house for his wife and children to be together, and for his old age to have a place of rest. After many years of saving, he put all his strength and money into building his dream house. But before the roof was finished, he fell seriously ill. During those days, lying on his sickbed, he still looked out the window where the workers were continuing the work. He said to his son, "I'm afraid I won't see the house finished in time." His son held his father's hand, tears streaming down. "Mr. Loy smiled faintly, his voice weak. "It's okay if my house isn't finished. If you live well, that is my true house." Those words silenced the whole family. After he passed away, his son continued to build the house, but not because he wanted to show off wealth or prove anything, but to keep his father's word. He understood that material things are temporary, while love and virtue are the solid foundations of a human life. The story of Mr. Loy spread throughout the village, and anyone who heard it was moved. People reminded each other that human life is impermanent, and wealth will eventually fade. Only virtue remains forever. The Buddha taught that when we are born, our hands are clenched. When we die, our hands open. In a whole human life, all that we try to hold on to is only to one day let go of it all. So a wise person does not fear impermanence. They only fear they haven't lived virtuously, haven't done good, and haven't loved. Impermanence is not an enemy. Impermanence is a bell reminding us to live mindfully. For if life were forever unchanging, who would still know how to treasure this moment? Many people, upon hearing the 2 words impermanence, immediately feel sad. They think impermanence means loss, parting, and suffering. But actually, impermanence is also hope. Because of impermanence, suffering can end, anger can fade, hatred can be resolved, and the mind can change. Because of impermanence, we have a chance to start over, a chance to correct ourselves, and a chance to love once more. Impermanence is life, the heartbeat of the universe. Imagine if everything were fixed, never changing. Could we grow? If pain lasted forever, could we smile one more time? So, impermanence is the truth of transformation. Anyone who understands impermanence lives as light as a cloud and as free as the wind. They no longer try to control life, but learn how to harmonize with life. One day, a disciple asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, I fear death. I don't know how to face it." The Buddha looked at him, smiled kindly, and said, "Humans fear death because they have never truly lived. If you live fully every minute and every second, then death is no longer scary. Because when death comes, you only change a form, while your mind is still as bright as before." Hearing this, the disciple shed tears. He understood that the important thing is not how long one lives, but how mindfully one lives. In daily life, how many times have we lost joy just because of trying to cling to unstable things? A word that makes us angry for a month, a loss that makes us suffer for many years. But if we know how to stop and look deeply into the nature of everything, we will see that nothing is truly lost. All is just temporary change of form and shape. The person who loves us today may leave, but love, if sincere, is still there. Money can run out, but the blessings created by a good heart will remain forever. This body can decay, but a bright mind will continue the journey in countless lives. Every morning upon waking, we should silently give thanks because we are still breathing, still seeing loved ones, and still hearing birds sing. That is already a miracle. Impermanence makes everything fragile, but that very fragility makes each moment precious. Who knows if a meal today might be the last time we sit with parents? Who knows if an apology today could save an affinity? Thus, a student of the Buddha needs to practice contemplating impermanence in every breath. When washing dishes, know that the dishes will also wear out. When looking in the mirror, know that the appearance will also fade. When angry with someone, think that we will also leave, and they will also leave. What is there to hate? Just one thought like that, and all afflictions vanish. In the afternoons, when the sunset falls, and the last sunlight gently covers the temple roof, let us sit quietly, take a very deep breath, and feel our heart beating. That is the moment of life. Say silently to yourself, "Everything is changing, and I am also changing, but I am at peace." That is the method of contemplating impermanence in the breath. No need for complexity, no need for effort, just awareness, just acceptance. A person who understands impermanence will know how to forgive because they understand that the one who did wrong today can be better tomorrow. They also know how to let go because they see that any competition will pass. They know how to love because they realize the opportunity to love each other is extremely short. Every handshake, every smile, every thank you becomes a practice. Impermanence does not take happiness from us, but gives us wisdom to know how to treasure happiness. When we no longer fear loss, we are truly free. When we no longer hope for everything to last forever, we are truly at peace. Remember the Buddha's teaching, human life is within a breath. Breathing out without being able to breathe in again is the end of a life. So what are we waiting for that we don't live well, don't love, and don't forgive? Now, if you are hearing these words, sit quietly, relax your shoulders, close your eyes, and feel the breath in and out at the nose. Let the mind dwell in the present. Breathing in, know you are still alive. Breathing out, smile at yourself. Breathing in, feel this body is impermanent. Breathing out, let go of all fear. Just a few minutes, and you will feel your heart lighter and your mind more at peace. That is the practice of contemplating impermanence. Finally, Let us remember that this life is like a bus journey. Each person is a passenger. No one knows when they have to get off the station. Some get off early, some go longer, but everyone eventually leaves. The only thing we can do is go on that journey with a good heart, a virtuous mind, and a peaceful smile. The Buddha taught that whoever understands impermanence will no longer have fear, because they know that death is not the end, but just a transformation. They know that loss is not loss, but opening a new way. They know that pain is not suffering, but a lesson helping the mind brighten. So live a life of letting go, of gratitude, and of love. When understanding impermanence, we are no longer made to suffer by impermanence. When understanding death, we truly know how to live. When understanding that only virtue remains forever, we will dedicate ourselves to letting go and sowing virtuous blessings every day. If one day impermanence arrives, we smile, join our hands, and say, "I have lived a full human life." And that is precisely liberation, peace, and the deep happiness that the Buddha's teachings have given us. In this life, there are times we feel too tired, not because the work is too heavy, but because the human heart is too complex. Sometimes we live well, but are still misunderstood. Sometimes we do good, but are still criticized. Sometimes we only want peace, but storms still find their way to us. Then we ask ourselves, why is the human heart so hard to predict? Why does a virtuous heart cause me to be hurt? And amidst all those burdens, we gradually lose ourselves. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent, and the human heart is the same. Whatever others do is their business. Keeping our mind virtuous is enough. That teaching seems simple, but it is a profound practice, because humans usually suffer, not because of what others do, but because we keep thinking about it, keep comparing, and keep resenting. When we learn how not to let the actions of others disturb our own hearts, we truly have freedom. Someone asked, if everyone ignores and doesn't care, then life wouldn't be fair. The Buddha taught, not ignoring in apathy, but letting go in wisdom. It means we still live virtuously, still love, still do our best, but are not bound by the reactions of others. Because whether others praise or criticize, that is their karma, not ours. If we live correctly according to the path and do not do wrong things, then even if we are misunderstood by the world, heaven and earth will naturally bear witness. There is a small story about Mai, a worker in an eatery. She was gentle and honest, every day arriving early to clean and cook, always smiling at everyone. But there was a jealous colleague who frequently spoke ill of her and made up stories that she took things from the shop. Initially, Mai was very sad. She cried and wanted to quit. But then, one day, she happened to hear the radio in the kitchen. A monk was lecturing, "The person who speaks ill of us is like they are carrying karma. If we are angry with them, we take the suffering into ourselves. If we love them, we are resolving karma for ourselves." That saying was like a light illuminating her heart. From then on, she was no longer sad. Every time she was criticized, she only smiled. Every time she heard someone speak ill, she silently recited, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." Over time, the person speaking ill of her felt ashamed and stopped on their own. One day that colleague became seriously ill and no one cared for her. Only Mai brought her porridge. The woman burst into tears, held Mai's hand, and apologized. Mai only said, "It's okay. I know you also suffered much in your heart." That saying moved the other woman, and the whole eatery looked at Mai with respect. The lesson here is very clear. Whatever others do is their business. What matters is one's own heart. If we keep following the rights and wrongs of the world, our mind will be tired for a lifetime. But if we return to keep the mind at peace, then no matter how strong the wind out there is, the heart remains like a calm autumn lake. The Buddha taught that when the mind is at peace, all things are at peace. That peace does not come from the outside, but from within us. Therefore, a practitioner does not fear storms, only fears that the heart is not yet clear. When the mind is still wavering, the words of others are like the wind blowing us away. When the mind is firm, all praise and blame are like clouds passing across the sky, leaving no trace. Many people suffer their whole lives because of the word competition. They want to prove they are right and the other is wrong. They want others to understand and to recognize them, but the more they want to prove, the more they lose peace. Some people, in moments of anger, say words that make them regret for a lifetime. Some, because of wanting to compete, create verbal karma and then bring suffering upon themselves. The Buddha taught, defeating 1,000 men in battle is not equal to defeating oneself. Defeating oneself here is defeating the mind of anger, ignorance, and attachment. When we are not controlled by those emotions, we have taken a large step on the path of liberation. Another story tells of a Zen master meditating in the forest. A passerby saw him sitting still and scolded, "You are a lazy person, only knowing how to sit there without doing anything for life." The Zen master remained silent. The other man angrily left. By nightfall, he got lost and returned to ask the master for shelter. The Zen master still smiled, lit a fire, and gave him food. The man said shamefacedly, "I insulted you. Why are you still good to me?" The master replied, "You threw the fire of anger at me. If I don't receive it, it returns to you. As for me, I only keep a bright lamp in my heart." The story is simple but is a demonstration of the wisdom of one who knows how to practice the mind. Whatever another does is their karma. How we react is our karma. If we keep a bright and virtuous mind, then good karma will be born. Human life is short. Everyone has times of error. Everyone has times of delusion. For the person who does wrong, do not be quick to hate. Perhaps in this life they are deluded, but in the next they will be bright. As for us, if we harbor anger and resentment, we make ourselves suffer. Being able to let go is a blessing. Being able to forgive is liberation. Whenever the mind is not at peace because someone hurt you, sit quietly, take a very deep breath, exhale gently, and silently recite, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." At that moment, the breath brings you to the present, and the Buddha's name softens the heart. Let the mind settle like water. Then you will see that all the things that once made you sad are no longer important. In the morning, when the sun rises and the light shines through the window, smile and tell yourself, "Today I will only do good deeds, speak virtuous words, and think good thoughts." That is the simplest way to practice, yet extremely effective. Because when our mind is good, everything around will also be good. When we smile, life also smiles at us. Life does not lack people who want to test us with words and actions. But remember, no one can make us suffer unless we allow them to do so. If we feel hurt, it is because we are clinging to the ego. But if we look at everything with an equal mind, we will see everyone is pitiful and everyone is on the journey of learning the path. The Buddha taught, "The person who says I am wrong doesn't make me wrong. The person who praises me as right doesn't make me right. Only our mind knows clearly what we are doing. So don't let people's words shake your heart. Keep walking on the virtuous path. It doesn't matter if someone misunderstands. Wholesome karma will be like a shadow always following you. Finally, practice a small method. Each night before sleep, sit quietly for a few minutes, breathe lightly, and ask, "Did I make anyone sad today? Was I angry with anyone today?" If so, send them a wholesome thought and an apology in the mind. If not, give thanks because today you lived peacefully. Then recite Namo Amitabha Buddha and smile. At that moment you will see the mind is as light as a cloud. Life is like that. Whatever they do is their business. As long as our mind is at peace, that is enough. No need to prove, no need to argue, no need to compete. Just live correctly according to the path, do good, maintain compassion, and recite the Buddha's name. That is enough for a meaningful lifetime. Understanding this, we will stop being angry, stop suffering, and stop being troubled. Because we know that everything in the world is like clouds passing across the sky, only the pure mind remains forever. Let the Buddha's teachings soak into every breath and every step. Each day only needs a recitation of the Buddha's name. Our mind will be like an autumn lake, quiet and clear. Then, no matter how many storms there are in the life outside, we are still peaceful amidst the flow of life. The temple bell rings out in the quiet night. The bell seems to remind us that all suffering will pass, all injustices will fade, and only the light of compassion in the heart never goes out. And now, if you are hearing these words, take a very deep breath, exhale gently so that all afflictions vanish with the breath. Tell your heart, whatever they do is their business. As long as our mind is at peace, that is enough. Listening to the Dhamma, doing good deeds, letting go each day a recitation of the Buddha's name is the path leading us to peace, liberation, and true happiness.